Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to Common English Mistakes. Don't just learn, improve. So today we're going to look at the problems students have with and when to use formal and informal language. So generally when students study this, or when it's covered in class or in a textbook, the emphasis is on this is too informal, make it more formal. But this doesn't make a lot of sense because apart from formal writing, letters of application, emails to clients, or maybe an exam task writing like FCE, CAE, most of the time the problem with this is students being too formal because it sounds very, very unnatural. Even in a business environment, day to day in an office, you would want to have a neutral tone. Obviously, don't call your boss mate, but on the other hand, being too informal again sounds very, very unnatural and something you want to avoid. So we're going to look at a few different situations where people generally use too formal language. First one is up here. There's no necessity to come to the office early because the meeting's been cancelled. So just pause the video, try to make this less formal, more everyday and more natural. And well done if you said there's no need to come to the office early. Once again, this is a business situation, but a necessity is still way too formal. So no need, much better, much more natural, and doesn't sound strange. And this is kind of the general rule. A longer, more complex word is going to be more formal. The shorter words are going to be more informal, more everyday. And now just pause the video and try to think of shorter, more everyday equivalents of the words highlighted in red. And well done if you said, I finish work at about, around, or I like this one, roughly 5. Very nice and colloquial. I try to use all my free time. And finally, my friend asked about my party. All of these shorter words, more everyday language, and much, much more natural. The next area involves the verb get, which I've looked at in another video. The link will be available at the end of this one. But this one we use in many different ways, and there's always a formal equivalent. So, for example, the one I covered in the other video, I received a postcard from my sister, way too formal. I got a postcard from my sister. Whereas a company might send you an email saying you will receive your package tomorrow, more formal. Same thing for arrive, although less of an issue, but it is much more natural to use the verb get. So you say to your friends, we'll get to you by 5. Whereas you might say to your boss, our clients arrive tomorrow. And then again, for the meaning become, you wouldn't say, I'm becoming tired, I might go to bed. You'd say, I'm getting tired. But you might write an email to your boss saying, I am becoming frustrated with the schedule, more formal. It is worth studying this because while I'm focusing on informal language in this video, one of the problems I have with essays for things like FCE, CAE is informality, and often that is using the word get. So always make sure you know the other synonyms and how to use them. And those last two also have another 2 examples of being informal and formal. So just pause the video, see if you can see what it is. And well done if you said in formal language, we want to keep the words separate and not contract. Informal, everyday, contract it. I would say this is more of an issue in formal writing, where it's a big no-no to contract. It's less of an issue for informal if you don't contract, but definitely something you want to try to do because it will make you sound more natural. So the next one, where students sound a bit too formal and quite unnatural, is putting prepositions before relative pronouns or question words, like here. So for the first one, instead of in which is very formal, just use where. So there's a great shop where you can buy fun clothes. For the questions, be careful. Because of how it is probably in your language, this might sound okay, but it does sound quite strange. So instead of at what time do you get up, just what time do you get up? At is optional. And for the second one, just put the preposition at the end again. Which city do you live in? And the next one is everyone's favorite, phrasal verbs, but why these are so important. Because often a phrasal verb will be informal and have a single word equivalent. But this word will be very formal, and if you use it in everyday conversation, you'll sound very strange, very unnatural. So just pause the video, look at the words highlighted in red, and see if you can think of a phrasal verb informal equivalent. And well done if you said, I can't put up with this noise any longer. I took part in a football match. And I took back the mean thing I said to Sandra. I'll look into when the buses are. Investigate wouldn't be terrible here, but look into is better. He's always bringing up football. So they each basically have the same meaning, but those single words are going to be used in more formal situations like these. So obviously that's just a handful of phrasal verbs with formal equivalents. I do recommend studying this, so Google something like that and do some extra study. It will really help you. The next area is conjunctions, and these I took from real FCE or CAE informal writings. So again, just look at the example sentences, look at the conjunction highlighted in yellow, and see if you can think of a more everyday conjunction with the same meaning. And well done if you said instead of thus, which to be honest, I don't think you should ever say. It usually sounds way too much. Just self-employed people can choose their schedule. So have more flexibility. Maybe just therefore is fine as well. And the next one, instead of henceforth, which sounds way too much again, just the phrase from now on, I'm not going to eat meat. And the next two used in conditional structures. On condition that, basically meaning if this happens, this can happen, but it's more formal. Better to use as long as or so long as. So I'll go to the party so long as you drive me. And then in the event of, usually if a bad situation happens, better to say take an umbrella in case it rains. And then moreover, furthermore, in addition, all used to make further points, but you wouldn't really use them in normal conversation. Instead, just say Malaga is a beautiful city. Also, it's quite cheap. Similarly, in an informal piece of writing, or definitely in conversation, you would never say in conclusion. Use all in all or overall. All in all, we had a great holiday. Again, I think that's something you should probably do some extra studying for. So just Google formal, informal conjunctions. The next thing is up here. I call my parents twice per week. A good structure to say how often something happens. Once, twice, 3 times, 10 times, etc. Per plus the time period. Hour, day, week, month, year, etc. But per is going to be very formal. For informal, you want to be using a or an hour. So just pause the video and put either a or per into these gaps, depending on whether it's a formal or informal situation. Often we also use per for more technical things as well. And well done if you said, I brush my teeth 3 times a day. The next one, if it's written in a contract, needs to be formal, salary, $2,000 per month. The next one, even though it's a business situation, maybe in an office, it would still sound strange to use per. So more natural, we have a meeting twice a week. For the next one, this is technical, so we could say he drives at 100 kilometers per hour, or just every day, he drives at 100 kilometers an hour. Both are fine. And then for the last one, we go on holiday once a year. So do watch out for this one. I have a lot of students saying this, and they sound very, very unnatural. If I were you, I would just use an. It's basically always fine anyway. Just a couple more to go. The next one is here, using the passive too much. Passive is generally going to be more formal. So just see if you can rephrase these sentences in a normal active sentence to sound less formal, more everyday, more natural. And well done if you said something like, Paul made the decision to go to that bar. My friend invited me to come to his wedding. Again, come is better than attend. And finally, my mother made this meal. And that brings us to the final thing I'm going to tell you today from that last sentence. My students often use the words mother and father, but again, it sounds very unnatural. You wouldn't say, I'm visiting my mother and father this weekend. Most of the time nowadays, people just say mum and dad, British English, or mom and dad, American English. Anyway, that's it. Well done if you made it to the end of the video. I didn't think it'd be that long, but there is a lot of stuff there, and I realized that when I looked at my students' old writings. No exercises today, but I would definitely encourage you to come back or study each of these different sections in a different area. It is a part where people sound very unnatural. And if you want to sound more natural, more like a native speaker, especially when you're speaking, you want to be using generally a much more informal tone and do the things we've covered in this video. Anyway, other than that, I'll see you in the next couple of days for another shorter video, I think. So until then, see ya.